So I have been trying to build a really sort of competitive way of playing heroes. Not really competitive, but at least staying sort of true to the Neos theme. And in all my research, the only real returns I'm getting is a deck like this. A hand loop deck based around a mixture of heroes and noble knights, which is pretty, I mean, it is pretty fun. I'm not going to lie, I have been liking it. In all of the videos so far, I'm seeing people calling it crazy and busted being able to hand loop 5 cards out of your opponent's hand and, you know, all of this really cool stuff. It's not all that. It's definitely being dramatized online, right? And fair enough, you know, people gotta do their thing. I'm here to give an honest review of the deck. And my honest review is that, absolutely, if you want to take this into casual or against like a friend or something like that, you can hand loop a few of his cards pretty consistently out of their hand. And worst case scenario, you've still got things like DPE to fall back on. You can occasionally go into Sunrays and things like that, so it's not as if it's like a one-trick pony. You can pretty consistently go into Anaconda off of your core plays, so you're probably going to loop them for maybe 1 or 2. I'm talking like every game. There are games where you will loop them for 5, and it's insane and whatever, but more consistently you're going to loop them for 1 or 2, which is still really good, and then you're going to go into DPE, right? And that's typically how it'll go, which is solid. Like that's 100% a-okay. That is pretty good. So we're going to go into a few games. Again, most of these are casual, because that's where I think this deck belongs. I don't think it's got the consistency in order to call itself top tier, or at least even competitive in any sort of sense. One of the bigger issues as well is that whenever you're going second, because that's the thing, this deck being even remotely good comes down to a coin toss, right? Because you have to win the coin toss first. So let's say you're winning the coin toss 50% of the time. Then that means there's another 50% of the time where there's no point in hand looping because they've already played their whole hand. So in those circumstances, you're just playing with a kneecapped version of heroes, which is like heroes already isn't good. So playing with a worse version of that, it's not great. You know, it's fantastic going first. You know, snipe like 2-3 cards out of the hand, set up a DPE, everyone's laughing. If you're going second, you're struggling a little bit. I'm gonna be real, you really are. But, you know, you can still make stuff happen. I'm not going to talk the deck down, you know, and again, also have to bear in mind, a lot of the other people playing this online probably have a lot more experience than I have, and are probably a little bit better at the game than I am. So who knows, maybe it is just me, but I mean, I don't know, guys. Either way, here's the deck. I'm going to be doing a deck profile at the end, to an extent, and talking about each of the cards individually. I dare say that if you're relatively new to Yu-Gi-Oh, there's probably a bunch of cards in here you haven't seen before, and there's still even then a bunch of new cards as well, which some people may not fully understand yet. So we are going to be covering it in a bit of detail at the end. For now, we're just going to jump into the gameplay. So if you're interested in this style of content, not only do we cover competitive decks, we also cover off some sort of fun flavor of the day type decks like this that people seem to be a fan of right now, and it is fun. I can see why. So if you're interested in anything like that going forward, feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, helps me out, helps you out, everybody wins, why not? You know? With that being said, let's get into game number 1. Alright, getting into game number 1 here, and this is a pretty decent hand to be starting off with. We're going to summon out Neos from the deck here. I think at this point we weren't playing the Aqua Dolphin, we'd later put the Aqua Dolphin in, but getting out Neos means we can use our Neos BSC Marine Dolphin, which is better anyway. So we're going to snipe out a monster out of his hand here. So basically, the way this works is Instant Contact brings out Marine Neos. Marine Neos lets you discard a card to look at your opponent's hand, target a monster, and if you control a monster bigger than it, you get to pop it and deal some damage. And now we're going to shuffle 2 back to contact fuse an Elemental Hero Marine Neos, which will destroy a random card in our opponent's hand. Now we're going to link off in the Isolde. Isolde is then going to add to our hand the Fire Flint Lady. You can add Fire Flint Lady or you can add Elemental Hero on this Neos. They're both good adds. We're going to then special summon out Infernable Knight, our Renaud. Renaud's going to add Smoke Grenade of the Thief back to our hand. We're going to summon out Anaconda. Anaconda then pays 2,000 life, bringing out our DPE here. DPE then, we're going to equip Smoke Grenade of the Thief onto our Verte Anaconda. We're going to pop our DPE and Smoke Grenade of the Thief. We're going to look at our opponent's card one more time, their hand one more time, sorry, and we get to take just one more card. So this is an example here of where we're able to loop 3 cards out of our opponent's hand, really limiting their options for playing against us, and then when it comes into the next turn, we're going to be able to use our DPE to pop a card. They're going to stack Monster Reborn on top of their deck, but I don't know what that's going to do for them, because they still have to play through a DPE and a Max C, which is pretty solid. So the amount of knowledge and information that we gain from this is astounding as well. Honestly, just knowing exactly what cards your opponent can and can't have, knowing exactly what you need to play around is absolutely amazing. They're going to Monster Reborn back one of their monsters here. We really don't care. We're going to draw a card off of it, and our opponent decides, you know what, they're going to go on to the next match, and I don't blame them. And that's a good demonstration of what the deck wants to do. Did we do as much hand looping as we possibly could have? Probably not. We probably could have maybe done a card or two extra, maybe. It would have been an ask. It would have been a real ask. But I think 3 cards hand looping out of your opponent's turn, as well as setting up a DPE, I think that's really solid. And this is sort of like the deck in its ideal circumstance, right? That's what it wants to do, and that's what it wants to do somewhat consistently. It just struggles with that. And we're gonna see that as we're going along here and do a couple more examples. Alright, getting into game 2 here. This was our first game into ranked, you know, and we were feeling somewhat confident about our last game's performance. And then we have this. Why am I showing you this game? I'm just gonna turbo through, right? Because they're playing Runic Sprite. The reason I wanted to show this off is because look at this hand. I want this game to serve as a reminder of how many bricks you're playing in your deck. Our opponent's playing Runic Sprite here. They're just ditching a bunch of cards. They grab their fountain. They're going to do unfair runic things. They get the search plus draw 3. Nasty, right? So we're playing so many bricks in this deck, and I wanted to show this game off because you're not going to see a game like this on anybody else's channel, right? This is the reality of the deck. Yeah, we just scoop it up. There's nothing we can do. So the reality of the situation is you're playing approximately, let me do the maths, 4 million bricks, right? So, I mean, it's up to you. That's the thing. You're not going to do that game 1. You're not going to do that every time. I just want to make that very clear. Going into game 3. Like, it's out there. We talked about it. Moving on. Alright, getting into game 3 here. This is not a fantastic hand, but you know what? It's a lot better than it was last time. Our opponent's going to go Foxy Tune here. We're going to Ash Blossom the Foxy Tune. We're going to stop him from getting that extra little search there, which is good for us. But he does have the Shark in hand, so Shark's going to be able to fuse with another Punk Monster to bring out Rising Carp. Rising Carp's going to be able to tribute itself to special summon 2 different Punk Monsters straight from the deck, Xiamen being one of them, grabbing his Ogre Dance from the deck. And now he's going to be able to Synchro Summon off into Jam Dragon Drive. Really cool deck. I'm such a big fan of Punks right now. I can't wait till I have this deck built. He's got that Royal Rare Deer Note, which is absolutely amazing. Beautiful card. I can't wait to play this deck. I'm so looking forward to it. There's still quite a few sort of cards I need to pick up from older packs, but I can't wait. They're going to go Ogre Dance here. Ogre Dance discarding to grab another Deer Note from the deck, which is interesting. They're going to reveal the Deer Note now to special summon out a Punk in their hand. They're special summoning out Xiamen, discarding the Deer Note. Now they're going to Synchro Summon off into the Psychic End Punisher. So long as we have less life points than him, his monster is unaffected by all of our card effects. And he can also, during the battle phase, gain attack points equal to the difference in our life points. We attempt to use our Durandal to search our deck for a Fire Warrior monster. We are going to use our Crossout Designator to stop this Ash Blossom, because we really need this to happen, right? We have literally one way of winning this game, and it is through Durandal. So we're going to go Fire Flint Lady. We're going to normal summon our Crosskeeper to let us special summon the Fire Flint Lady. We're going to link off into Isolde. Isolde is going to, or Isolde, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to grab Shadow Mist to our hand because we already have Neos. We're going to send Smoke Grenade to the Thief, summoning out the Infernoble Knight Renaud. Renaud's going to add back the Smoke Grenade, and then we're going to link off in the Verte Anaconda. Verte Anaconda, of course, paying 2,000 life points to bring out DPE. Now, that 2,000 life point cost puts us lower life points than our opponent, which is actually a good thing here. That means their Psychic End Punisher is no longer unaffected, so we're going to take out the Shark. We're going to activate DPE here, wiping out the Psychic End Punisher and the Smoke Grenade to the Thief, so we can snipe the last card out of his hand, being an Ash Blossom, which is really good for us. We're going to deal 500 direct damage, and then we're simply going to pass turn. We have Honest Neos here, we have Mass Change, we have Follow Up, and we have the win. There you go. So, being able to take even just 1 or 2 cards out of your opponent's hand while still being able to go into the likes of DPE, whilst having the Honest Neos there to fall back on, having Mass Change and Shadow Mist for some follow-up, it's not bad. It's pretty decent. It's just, it feels just like a weaker version of Heroes. You know, it's kind of cool. I like it. So there's game number 3. Let's get into game number 4. Alright, last game of the video here. We're going to go Neospace Connector, and what's the point behind this replay? This replay is to show you that a single interruption kills this entire deck. So there you go. Our Neospace Connector, Ash Blossom. And it's as simple as that. We do have a couple of cards here, at least we might be able to rely on to help us get past the turn. They're going to set 2 and pass, so you know what? We might actually stand a chance here. We're going to have to wait and see. We're going to draw into Instant Contact, which isn't fantastic. They're going to go Exo Sister Vadis. We're going to quickly mask change our Shadow Mist, giving us a Dark Claw, which hopefully will give us some sort of advantage or something we can do. They're going to go Vadis here. Depending on what their other set card is, we might actually have a chance. We're going to try and grab a card off of our Shadow Mist. We can't actually even call by the Grave the Ash Blossom, even if we wanted to, which we wouldn't because it's Exo Sisters, but even if we wanted to, we couldn't. They're going to go Return You here, banishing the Imperb. I can't believe they hit the face down Imperb. That is actually nuts. They hit the Imperb with their banishment. We're going to Instant Contact, bringing out the Marine Dolphin. I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter. We're going to go Vertan. He's just going to banish it. And then during the next turn, he can simply take out our Dark Claw, right? So it's not as if there's any sort of massively surprising turns of events here. We're going to quickly speed through this. He takes out our Dark Claw right away before using his Sophia. Sophia drawing him an extra card. Michaelis is going to add another Return You to the hand. He sets 3 in, and I'd said, you know what? I know when I'm beat. GG's. It doesn't matter what I possibly draw into. It's not going to beat the Return You and 2 other face downs. Absolutely not. So yeah, just another instance of a big flaw with the deck, right? Because it is big. It's huge. It's very, very serious. Because realistically, if you're going to take this into any sort of even semi-competitive environment, there's going to be hand traps. There's going to be Veiled, there's going to be Ash, there's going to be Imperm. They are going to exist. And you simply don't have a very good way of playing around them. And that's something that needs noted. So there you go, game number 4, showing another one of the deck's biggest weaknesses. Let's get in, we'll talk about the deck and sort of what's good, what's bad, and you can sort of make up your own mind from there as to whether or not you want to play it. Not every deck and idea turns out to be a banger, but you know what? This one is at the very least a ton of fun, and it's very, very unique in how it works. Versions of this have existed for a while. They have gotten a little bit better, I would say, since the release of the new support, but it's not by a large enough margin to justify its competitive use. So let's talk about the deck. First of all, we're going to remove the excess. We're going to remove the Maxi. We're going to remove the Ash Blossom. I'm going to remove the double Call by the Grave, single Crossout, and double Imperm. So there you go. You've got 9 slots, and I feel like double Call by the Grave is mandatory, at least. Crossout Designator feels about as close to mandatory as you can get without being mandatory. But yeah, here we are. So it's a 31 card deck, which is pretty big. We don't get a ton of room to play, but it's fine. And it sort of works by splitting itself into several sort of distinct engines, right? So we of course have Elemental Hero Neos, who is just here as a vanilla for his name. He's just here for the full usage of Spirit Neos and for the effects of Instant Contact. That's it, we just need his name. Then you've got Infernoble Knight Renaud. Renaud is part of your core engine. As you saw in the gameplay, we use Renaud all the time. Renaud is going to be a card that you'll special summon out and will add Smoke Grenade of the Thief to your hand, which is this card here. It'll add this to your hand so you can then loop another card out of your opponent's hand with your DPE play. Again, we showed that play off a lot in the gameplay. If you've skipped to this part of the video for whatever reason and you didn't watch the gameplay, I'd recommend going back and watching it. Fireflint Lady is a decent extender, can special summon itself out if you control a warrior monster, and can even tag itself out to summon out another level 4 or lower warrior from your hand should you need to. Occasionally comes in useful whenever you want to summon out maybe an Aqua Dolphin from your hand, or a Stratos, or Shadow Mist, or whatever, but mostly it's here as an extender to be used for its first effect. Crosskeeper is an interesting card. You can send it from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon out an Elemental Hero or Neospacian from your hand or grave. The only thing is its effects are negated. If it didn't have that little caveat, I think this card would be a lot better because you would be able to use it for your Aqua Dolphin, looping even more, but because it negates the effects, it's sort of a mid-tier card. It's not that great, but it can be a decent extender, and it is a warrior, so I think it at least deserves a spot for an okay Rhoda target on occasion. but it's not a game changer. You can cut this if you want. We've got the Aqua Dolphin. I would always play at least one Aqua Dolphin. I know not every build does, but I think being able to summon Aqua Dolphin straight from the deck using Neospace Connector is really, really strong, because this card basically lets you discard a card, look at your opponent's hand, and you can pick out a monster among them, and if you have a monster in your field bigger than that monster you've chosen, you get to destroy it and inflict 500 points of damage. So at the absolute bare minimum, you're getting knowledge about your opponent's hand, and on the plus side, if you have a big enough monster, then you get to snipe one of their cards, which is pretty solid. Then we've got Denier and Malicious here. I'm just going to briefly mention them. They're both here as part of our DPE package. Nothing really special about them other than that. Pretty simple. We got the Double Stratos, helps you search for your deck for any hero monster, which is solid. Shadow Mist has two effects that are useful. Number one, when special summoned, you can grab a mask change from your deck, or when sent to the graveyard, you can search your deck for any hero monster. Now, you can only use one of those per turn, so do be careful. You can't do one each. It is one of her effects per turn. Neospace Connector on summon will summon out either Neos or your Aqua Dolphin directly from the deck. It can also tribute itself to summon either Neos or your Aqua Dolphin from your graveyard as well, and you can use both of these effects in the same turn. So you can summon out your Aqua Dolphin if you want, then if you send this card to the graveyard somehow, you can resummon it off of Connector, which means you get to use its effect twice, which means potentially a double hand loop, which is pretty decent. It's also useful to get Neos out into play so that your instant contact is actually useful. Then we've got Liquid Soldier, who is primarily here as an extra sort of hero monster, and the ability to draw extra cards off of using this card as fusion material also comes up because the deck isn't very consistent. I don't think this card is core to the deck. You could definitely justify cutting this in exchange for maybe more end shuffle. I think more end shuffle is probably needed within the deck, so you might want to maybe cut either Crosskeeper or Liquid Soldier for a third end shuffle. That's just my opinion on it. The Malicious already talked about. The Honest Neos is here just as a quick play search for 2500 attack points during the battle phase. It will save your life on occasion, helps you get over big boss monsters. It's just a good card, especially considering you can search it off of your Isolde when she's summoned, which is pretty damn good. Because the monster that she searches, again, spoiler, we're going to talk about her effect in a minute, but the monster she searches from deck to hand cannot be used or summoned on that turn, so searching a card you can use on your opponent's turn is a little bit more useful. And finally, we have Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos. This card is one of the new forms of support that came out for heroes. We're going to be using this card a little bit more in the future in other sort of Neospace decks. But basically what this guy does is when he's special summoned, you will add to your hand either Polymerization or an Elemental Hero spell or trap card. Then you can tag him out, shuffling him back into the deck to summon out the original Elemental Hero Neos, which of course is much more useful for its name. So this guy will grab you instant contact most of the time. It can grab you end shuffle, and there are a bunch of other really useful cards it can grab, but we're just not playing them in this deck. So it's mainly here for instant contact. Getting into our spells, we've got Polymerization, of course we do. We've got Rhoda, of course we do. We've got Miracle Fusion, of course we do. It's searchable off of Sunrise. We've got 3 copies of A Hero Lives. Special summon any level 4 or lower elemental hero from deck, summoning out Stratos or Shadow Mist directly from the deck. Absolutely busted. Absolute mandatory 3 of if you have them. If you don't have 3 copies of it, you might want to fill those slots with either more hero monsters or by using the spell card Emergency Call is another option. But if you have 3, play 3. Fusion Destiny, of course, for our DPE engine, we need it. Instant Contact, another one of the new cards. You pay 1000 life points to summon a level 7 or lower Elemental Hero Fusion monster or Neospacia monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. But its effects are negated unless you control or have in your graveyard Elemental Hero Neos. So this, within the context of this deck, this card is going to be summoning out Neospacian Marine Dolphin, where its effect will allow you to discard a card, target a monster in your opponent's hand, and if you have a bigger monster than the one in their hand, you get to destroy it, which is pretty solid. It's just another version of Neospacian Aqua Dolphin that can be summoned directly out from the extra deck. Another really handy part about that is if you also happen to control Elemental Hero Neos, you can contact fuse your Marine Neos and your Elemental Hero Neos and the Elemental Hero Marine Neos, who we're going to get to in a moment. But Instant Contact is just here to put this out into the field, which enables 2 additional hand loops. End Shuffle is here to shuffle back one of your E-Heroes or your Neospecians to summon out Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos directly from your deck, which is solid. We got Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Smoke Grenade of the Thief is here because when it's destroyed while equipped to a monster, you look at your opponent's hand, choose any card and discard it, so it is a hand loop. It's also searchable, kind of. So Isolde, I'm gonna talk more about Isolde later, but Isolde has an effect that allows you to send equip spells from your deck to the graveyard, equal to the level of a warrior monster in your deck, and you can send them to the grave and then summon the warrior. So Renaud is a level 1, so you would send one equip spell, like Smoke Grenade of the Thief, to special summon Renaud out from your deck. Renaud then will add back to your hand one of your equip spells, like your Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Then you link Renaud and Isolde off into Predaplant Verte Anaconda, and you do the whole combo that we showed off in the gameplay to loop an extra card. So definitely mandatory. Durandal, basically it's a lot of words for saying search your deck for Renaud. And the last thing, Mass Change. Mass Change, searchable off of Shadow Mist, and can basically tag out one of your hero monsters into a masked hero of the same attributes, so you can summon either Darklaw, which is a Floodgate Banish All, or Blast, which is kind of useful on occasion. It's not the most broken card, but it is sometimes useful to be able to tag out a Stratos, or even to just bounce a bunch of back row. So Mass Change, definitely a decent one of here, considering you can get pretty easy access to it. Getting into the extra deck, we've already sort of half talked about the extra deck at this point, honestly. You of course have Neospecian Marine Dolphin. This is like the only deck list where you're going to see this card in play. This card in any other context is trash. They actually made it good though with the new support Instant Contact, which is pretty interesting. I never expected this card to see the light of day. Literally, I never expected this card to see the light of day. You basically just discard a card, select the monster in your opponent's hand. If one of your monsters are bigger, destroy it and inflict 500 points of damage, which is kind of nice. Just an extra hand loop. We've got Darklaw, which is 2 amazing effects. Number 1, so long as this guy's face up, any card that would be sent to your opponent's graveyard is instead banished. Think about how devastating Dimension Shifter is. Now put it on 2400 body that is there every single turn. Not only that, it has a second effect that says whenever your opponent would add a card from their deck to their hand once per turn, you get to pick a random card in their hand and banish it, in keeping with our theme of hand looping. So that is brutally powerful, absolutely. We've got Masked Hero Blast, so you'll summon off of your Stratos. On summon, you have the attack points of one of your opponent's monsters, and you can also pay 500 life points once per turn to bounce a spell or trap your opponent controls back to their hand, which, you know, kind of nice in certain matchups. You're not going to use this card a lot, but it's nice here and there. It's mainly here for when your opponent targets your Stratos with like an Imperm or an Effective Healer or whatever, and tries to negate it. You can quickly tag it out into Blast, meaning its effect will resolve, although most of the time you want to save this for Darklaw. We've got Sunrise, a fusion of any 2 hero monsters of different attributes. He has a couple of effects. Number 1, on summon you'll grab Miracle Fusion directly from your deck. Its second effect then boosts up the attack points of all heroes on your monsters by 200 points per different attribute on the field. And lastly, whenever an attack is declared involving another hero monster other than this card, you get to pop a card on the field, which is pretty solid. So he's very aggressive, boosts up your attack points, pops a bunch of cards, searches a fusion spell. Just a very aggressive card. We've got Marine Neos, another card I never expected to see the light of day. This card is actually pretty good. Basically, once per turn, destroy a random card in your opponent's hand. No cost, no restrictions, no nothing. You just pop a card. And unlike the other Contact fusions, you don't need to shuffle this guy back into the deck during the end phase, which is pretty cool. I really like that. We've got Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, a fusion of any hero or water monster. When sent to the graveyard, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. That's pretty much it. DPE, because it's DPE, of course, it's core to the deck and it's a broken card. You saw it plenty in the gameplay, I don't need to tell you what it does. Isolde, and we've already sort of fully talked about what this card does, but what it does, again, just in case, just, you know, for consistency's sake, on summon, add a warrior from deck to hand, and for the rest of that turn, it can't be normal summon or set, or you can't activate its effects. So typically speaking, you want to grab a card follow-up, or you want to grab something like Honest Neos, which would be useful on your opponent's turn. So the search effect is fine, but its main effect is the next one, where you'll send equip spells with different names from your deck to the graveyard to summon a warrior monster whose level is equal to or less than the number of equipped cards sent. So you want to send one card, your Smoke Grenade, to summon out Renaud, so Renaud can do its shenanigans. So that's the combo, basically just helps you hand loop one, and then you end up linking it off. We've got Wonder Driver. Never use it. I never use this card. You don't play enough heroes to justify this. Honestly, I would take this card out, and I would replace it with Aquaneos. Again, a card you're very rarely going to use, but the extra hand loop could be more useful than Wonder Driver is realistically ever going to be. Same for Cross Crusader. Cross Crusader is just not a good card in this deck. I just don't think it is. In fact, I actually think Wonder Driver might be better. Ironically, I called Wonder Driver useless, and it's still not the most useless card in the extra deck. You just don't play enough heroes to justify really summoning these cards. Most of the time your heroes are already gone. Like, you're playing Neospecians, you're playing Infernoble Knights, you're playing the Neospace cards. You're not really playing heroes, right? Which is why those cards maybe aren't the greatest. But I definitely think the Aquaneos deserves a spot. Then we got Cross Sheep, ironically, which is more useful. Basically, if it points to a fusion monster, whenever something is summoned to a zone it points to, you get to resurrect a monster in your graveyard, which is pretty nice. Vert Anaconda, just to summon a DPE for free, straight out from your extra deck, which is pretty handy. Unicorn, to bounce a card back to their deck, should you need to do so. Dread Decimator, another card I would replace. I would replace this one with Masquerena. It simply came up more often. I just think this card is infinitely more useful. There's a lot of games where I was thinking to myself, man, I wish I had Masquerena. So I think Masquerena, for sure, deserves its place over the Dread Decimator. Like I said, you're just not playing enough hero monsters. You simply aren't. You simply are not playing enough heroes. And lastly, we've got Apollousa, which again occasionally comes up. It just basically helps to put a whole bunch of monster negates on your board. And yeah, there's the deck. It is, honestly, it's a lot more straightforward than it seems, right? And initially, you look at the list and you're just like, holy crap, what the hell is happening? Right? It's a very easy thing to get overwhelmed by just by looking at it. Let me throw the hand traps and everything back in here. Right, so this is the full deck list, right? It's very easy to look at this and think, what the hell is going on? And you would be right to. But the actual deck itself is really simple. It's really not that complicated. The combos are simple. You saw them in the gameplay. Combos are easy. It's not very consistent. The deck is not very consistent. It's not very good. It doesn't go second very well. But going first, a lot of the times you can win a game just by taking like 3 of your opponent's best cards out of their hand. Like your opponent's trying to play a game with a 3-card hand, and that's after you get your choice of which ones you want to get rid of. So you're just going to take their 3 best cards, and let's say then get past the DPE with 3 crappy cards. You know, that's the idea. That's the theory. But, you know, it needs work. I feel like with a little bit of work, maybe this deck, this idea can be better. But we will need to sit on it. We'll need to wait and see. It's not something that I plan on innovating on much, but I will certainly keep tabs on other people as they do it. And if I see a dramatic sort of stride being made on it, I will cover it. But for now, I'm going to leave this one to the experts. I think I've done everything I can with it. I'm simply going to move on to something else. I am cooking up an actual Neos deck, which is something I want to do. Again, not built to be optimal, not built to be sort of super competitive. Just built for Neos fans who just want to play a bit of Jaden and want to have fun with it. Much like myself. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in decks like this or anything else that we do here on the channel, make sure you subscribe. You know, helps you out, helps me out, completely free of charge. There is no reason not to do it if you've got this far into the video and you've liked it. And again, speaking of, if you haven't liked the video at this point, now would be the time to do so. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.